What happens to a family when the mystery never ends? When every Christmas is a reminder of loss? When every phone call could be the one that finally brings answer for the Sodder family? This wasn't a question. It was there. George Sodder died in 1969 at the age of 74. He died with questions still burning in his heart. He died still believing that somewhere, somehow, his children were alive. He died still searching, still hoping, still waiting for a truth that never came on his deathbed. Did he think of Maurice? Did he wonder if Martha had grown up beautiful? Did he imagine Louis as a man with a family of his own? Did he picture Jennie and Betty as women? He would never know. George took those questions to his grave. Jennie lived another 20 years. 20 years of waking up every morning to the same absence. 20 years of wondering. 20 years of hope that never died. Even as her body grew old and tired, she wore black every single day for the rest of her life. A perpetual mourning for children she refused to believe were dead. Black for Maurice, black for Martha, black for Louis, black for Jennie, black for Betty. Every day. For 20 years she died in 1989 at the age of 91. She took whatever secrets she had uncovered to her grave. She took the hope, she took the pain, she took the unanswered question, and then, shortly after Jennie's death, something happened that felt like the end of an era. The billboard on Route 16 was finally taken down. For nearly 4 decades, that billboard had stood as a silent witness to an unsolved mystery. 5 faces, 5 children, one simple plea: reward. For information leading to the location of Maurice Sodder, Martha Sodder, Louis Sodder, Jennie Sodder, Betty Sodder. Missing since Christmas Eve 1945, thousands of motorists had seen those faces every day. Commuters on their way to work, families on vacation, truck drivers passing through, generations of people who glanced at that billboard and wondered, for just a moment, what happened to those children? Now the billboard was gone, but the questions remain. The children who survived that night carried the weight of the mystery for the rest of their lives. Marion, John, George, Jr., and little Sylvia, who was only 2 years old when the fire destroyed her home. They gave interviews, they cooperated with investigators, they never gave up hope. They couldn't. Those were their brothers, their sisters, their flesh and blue. Sylvia, the baby of the family, became the most vocal advocate. Into the 21st century, she continued to publicize the case. She spoke to journalists. She appeared in documentaries. She kept her siblings' memory alive, long after everyone else had stopped listening. Think about that. A woman in her 60s, still talking about brothers and sisters she barely remembered. Still fighting for answers, still hoping that before she died, she would finally know the truth. She never did. Maurice would be in his 90s today, if he lived. Martha would be 91. Louis, 89. Jennie, 87. Betty, 85. They are forever frozen in childhood. Forever 14, 12, 10, 8, and 5. Forever the children on the billboard. They never aged, never grew up, never had families of their own, at least, not in the minds of those who remember them. The site where the Sodder home once stood is now a quiet patch of ground. A small memorial marks the spot. The pine tree that overlooked the house still stands nearby, a silent witness to everything that happened that night. The coal trucks that wouldn't start are long gone, scrapped, recycled, forgotten. The town of Fayetteville has changed over the decades. The coal mines have closed. New generations have grown up. New families have moved in. But the story of the Sodder children has never been forgotten. It can't be. It's woven into the fabric of the town itself. And then there's that photograph. The one that arrived with no return address. The one that said, Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie, Was it really Louis? Did he survive? Did he grow up somewhere else, under a different name, in a different life? Did he somehow find a way to reach out to his family without revealing his location, without putting himself in danger? Or was it something else? A cruel hoax? A taunt from someone who knew the truth and wanted to torment a grieving family? A piece of evidence from someone who couldn't speak directly but wanted to leave a clue? The handwriting was never definitively matched to anyone. The photograph was never traced to its source. The postal service couldn't identify where it was mailed from. Experts examined it. They analyzed it. They gave their opinions, but no one could say for certain. It remains, like everything else about this case, an enigma wrapped in a mystery. What happened to the man who threatened George Sodder? The insurance salesman who predicted the fire? The man who sat on the coroner's jury that declared it all and accident records are sparse. His name appears in some accounts, but never with enough detail to trace. He seems to have vanished into history, taking his secrets with him. Did he die with a clear conscience? Did he confess on his deathbed to someone who never came forward? Or did he simply live out his life, never facing justice, never answering for what he may have? We'll never know. The man who admitted to cutting the telephone line, Lonnie Johnson, according to some accounts, was arrested for theft. He served time for stealing the block and tackle from George's garage. But he was never charged with anything related to the fur, his explanation. He thought the phone line was an electrical wire. He was just trying to steal some copper. Nothing more. A convenient explanation. Perhaps a true one. Perhaps no, but here's the question that haunts this case. If he was just a thief, why cut the line on that particular night? Why hours before the fire? Why not any other nigh coincidence? Or something else? The official position of every law enforcement agency that has ever examined this case remains the same. The 5 Sodder children perished in the fire on Christmas Eve, 1945. Case closed. Move along. Nothing to see here but for the family, and for the thousands of people who have studied the case over the decades. That conclusion has never been satisfactory. It can't be, because it explains nothing. If the children died in that fire, where were the bodies? Where were the bones that should have been there? Why was the ladder missing? Why were the trucks disabled? Why was the phone line cut? Who made that strange phone call just hours before the fire? Who threw those fireballs that the bus driver saw? What was that object Jennie found in the ash? Too many questions, too few answers, too many coincidences to be. A few artifacts from the Sodder home survived. A melted toy here, a charred photograph there. They serve as physical reminders of a family that was torn apart on what should have been the most joyous night of the year. They sit in boxes, in drawers, in small memorial displays. Silent witnesses to a tragedy that never ended. Christmas is supposed to be a time for family, for joy, for togetherness. 4 children waking up early to see what Santa brought. 4 parents watching their kids tear open presents with wild abandon. For the smell of cookies and the sound of laughter. For the Sodders, Christmas became something else entirely. A reminder of loss, a symbol of unanswered questions, a wound that never healed. Every December 24th, the pain returned. Every Christmas morning, the absence was felt. Every year, they wondered. Are they alive? Are they happy? Do they ever think of us? Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jennie, Betty. 5 children who went to sleep on Christmas Eve and never woke up. Or who woke up somewhere else, under different names, in different lives, never able to find their way home. If you know something, if you've heard something, if those faces look familiar, the case is still open. Not officially, perhaps. The files are cold. The investigators are gone. The witnesses are dead. But in the hearts of those who remember, it will never be closed. It can't be, because closure requires answers, and answers have never come. George and Jennie Sodder are gone now. The children who survived that night are gone too. Marion, John, George Jr., Sylvia, all of them have passed into history, taking their hopes and their pain with the but their descendants carry on the search. Grandchildren, great-grandchildren, people who never met. Morris, Martha, Louis, Jenny or Betty, but who feel their absence like a hole in the family tray. They give interviews. They post on social media. They appear in documentaries. They keep the story alive. They refuse to let the world forge, because as long as the story is told, there is hope, and hope is all they have. Lev, what happened to the Sodder children? The answer died with them if they died at Al. But one thing is certain. On Christmas Eve, 1945, 5 children vanished from the face of the earth. And nearly 80 years later, we are still asking WH. The ladder was missing. The trucks wouldn't start. The phone line was cut. The fireballs flew through the air. The witnesses saw them alive. The photograph arrived decades later. And still, we have no answer. Perhaps the truth is out there. Perhaps someone knows. Perhaps that someone is listening right now, finally ready to speak. If you know something, anything about the Sodder children, don't keep it to yourself. A family has been waiting for nearly 80 years. Don't let them wait any longer. Thank you for watching Dark Evidence. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We have more unsolved mysteries coming your way. More cases that defy explanation. More families waiting for justice. More stories that need to be told. And if you have any theories about the Sodder children, any thoughts, any information, any connections you've made, leave them in the comments. You never know what might break a case wide open. You never know who might be read in. I'm your host, and as always, sleep well, because you never know what mysteries await in the darkness.